confirm, and we're live. That wasn't so hard, huh? What do I have to do? What is all this shit just dinging up in my fucking head? Alright, I really gotta, let's see, what's this? Let's Attack on Titan. Alright, let's go to Creator Studio. Don't want to fuck this up. Oh. Let me fix a few things. Let me fix a few things for you fine ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to have another mishap. See, what happens is I'm gonna do restream. No one's even watching. Why am I even talking to myself? All the downloads are gone. And I put them... No. Not in the M.2. There we go. Now I just need... Come on, why are you so fucking slow? No one's watching. It's fine. Oh my god. Large icons. Because I'm an old fuck and I can't see a goddamn thing. Oh, fuck me. There we go. Right there. Open that bad boy. Now we're good. Now we're good. We're golden. Okay. It's people. That's it. There's people on blogs. You know what? Let's do... Is there... News and politics. Let's do that. That seems to be the fitting, appropriate avenue to take. They need to get some BG noise, background noise. At everyone, bring your asses ASAP. I'm live now, bitches. Bitches, yes! To everyone. I don't give a fuck. If you don't want me doing the at everyone thing, then why are you a part of my program? Why would you sign up? You know what this is about. You all know what this is about. I haven't talked with the boys in a while, and neither of them are on. So sad. Alright, so let's get a fucking restream going. I know, fucking gross, right? Warning! Warning! Now it says I'm live. What the fuck is wrong with it? Huh. Interesting. Launch chat out. Alright. And we're gonna drain that right there. No, we're gonna bring it right there. Where's politics? Where's politics? I wanna get into some shit. I wanna get into some shit, like time now. Into some shit. I wanna get into some shit, like time now. Into some shit. Oh, that fan sucks. I can barely hear it, but I've got the noise canceling headphones on, so yay me. Let's bring boom right there.
I had an anxiety attack while high as shit. And ever since then, I was like, I'm gonna take a year or two away from the fucking stuff. Anything I'm not fucking with for a year or two, just because it was like, I need to chill the fuck out.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people having anxiety attacks on weed. Actually,
Oh, it's because THC can, too much THC can do that to you. If you've got...
I was having...
Yeah, if you have too many marijuanas, it's not good.
Oh no, it's just, I don't know. I think I'm personally, I personally like, I think it's sativas that are less about euphoria and more about like the mellow experience. I personally prefer that. I don't like the euphoric high. If I want indicas, yeah. If I want to get fucked up, I'm gonna like do acid or something.
Acid?
Because I'm gonna be awake a lot.
Yeah, dude, you just take some fucking like, you take some like, you know, acid you'd use to like burn some shit with. You just dump it on your tongue, man. Obviously.
I like to take Oxycontin and crush it up with some Mike and Ike's. It gives it a good time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't.
That shit doesn't taste good, so you need to blend it to make it go down good.
Yeah, the one time I had the one time I fucked with any sort of opiates, I drank lean, and I just felt like sleeping the whole time. I was just tired after drinking it.
That's why modern rap sucks, because they're all on lean. They can't fucking write lyrics properly and all that shit. Get rid of the lean. You got to get on the up and ups, man. Back when rappers were smoking weed and
how smart they are without the lean.
I don't fucking know, dude. All I know is I drank that shit and I was like, damn, I feel good, but I feel tired at the same time. I could really go for a fucking nap. Like when I smoke weed, it's like I play video games for about 5 hours and then take a nap. So.
What video games?
Depends on what mood I'm in while high.
You know, I watched the entire series of Prison Break once, high as fuck, and it was a whole new show for me. Delicious. I loved it. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I watched all 8 seasons of Dexter in 5 hours one time.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, I fast forwarded it 800%.
Damn. Yeah, I get bored sometimes. Like, I used to smoke a lot, and I'd play, like, I don't know if you know what grand strategy games are.
No.
They're called, like, map games, like, from Paradox Interactive.
Coolmathgames.com.
Yeah, dude, cool math games.
You know, that fucking, what's that spirit shit that you get from the gas station? I tried that shit once. I watched Shutter Island. I thought that I was Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, that shit got me fucked up.
Spirit shit? What are you talking about? Hello! What do you mean spirit shit from a gas station? The fuck?
Never heard of Spirit?
You go to.
Back when I lived in New York, they had this shit called Spirit. They sold it as an incense, but everyone fucking, yeah, it was some chemical fucking shit. Like, it was like synthetic weed, and you rolled it up like a joint.
I heard never smoke spice, dude.
Yeah,
Spice. Fuck, it was Spice. That's what it was. Not
Spice
Spirit.
can kill your ass super easy.
That's what it was. It was
So,
Spice.
like,
Yeah, that shit's fucked up.
That
heard
shit's
of
dangerous,
salvia?
dude.
They used to sell salvia illegally in like smoke shops, and I started smoking that shit because my friend was he was getting UA, urine analysis, because he was like on probation, so he couldn't smoke weed.
Oh shit.
So he gets like a couple pounds of salvia.
Oh god.
You take like just a bowl, one bong rip, and you rip the whole entire bowl in one hit, and then when you hold it in until you start to feel like you're falling backwards, and then you blow it out, and everything is fucking, you're transformed into like sometimes you think, like one time I thought I was like a fucking giant, like 300-foot high fan blade with arms.
Yeah, dude. Sounds like you need some hobbies.
Dude, it was fucking crazy. Like one time, everything like in my peripheral vision like froze and folded up like a fan blade for like fanning yourself, you know, like a hand fan. Like the first fan was like a, you know, like a ceiling fan. The other one was like a fucking, hand fan. It's hella weird.
Doesn't salvia only last for like a few minutes though?
Yeah, it lasts like 5 minutes, but then for like 15 minutes, you feel like super ultra drained, and you like kind of traumatized. Like you don't even want to fucking smoke salvia again.
It sounds like shit.
It is, dude. I say, don't smoke salvia. I've smoked it a bunch, and every time I'm like, what the fuck, dude? You still feel like you're falling
I don't know.
backwards, and
I
it's
wanna-
really uncomfortable.
I
You're
wanna-
sweating the balls by the time you
I
come
wanna-
down.
You know, considering this is the channel that it is, I could ask, what does any of this shit have to do with politics or religion?
I mean, some people use psychedelics to have religious experiences, man.
Exactly. That's what the purpose of salvia was.
Yeah, but that's not what you're talking about. Now you're just fucking spitballing here.
No, what we're doing is we're going to the nuances of our own personal experiences, and we're looking at the platforms of it now, of how it's been eradicated and illegalized. For example, when I was living in New York, it was a huge thing. I was in the military right next to Fort Drum, and as soon as the military caught wind of it...
None of you guys were talking about that. You're just saying, man, getting high. Yeah, man, yeah, that type of getting
Is
high.
there really...
We were talking about the nuances of our personal experiences to set a baseline that we understand what we're talking about.
Oh, please.
Yeah, we're talking about don't do...
Come on, you guys were just fucking straight up saying, man, don't get high on this. Oh, man, this shit's fucking great.
I mean, also, like, we're having a decent conversation in a room while most of the other ones are full. Like...
Also, like, check it out. If we're going to have a political discussion of something, we need to have some sort of baseline on a civil matter between each other. I think that in order for politics to have a really firm ground, we as people, as citizens, need to kind of be cohesive on a given subject matter, correct?
This guy's just practicing his fucking spinning skills.
Yeah, back to the matter at hand. I want to try peyote eventually.
Man, Nicole, I was trying to project is don't fuck with this. Don't fuck with drugs.
Dude, I think
start smoking.
Honestly, I think drugs, like the idea of it, we need to remove like the stigma of it from our culture, legalize the shit, and then it's over. It's done. Like, if we look at countries like Portugal that did it, they saw a massive drop in like overdoses and drug use. Plus, you stop putting people in jail for fucking drugs. And if they have problems, they're more likely to go talk to like people for help about it because there's no societal stigma on the matter. It's not illegal. So
yeah, the United States, the war on drugs fucked a lot of stuff up. Ain't gonna lie.
Oh, yeah.
And when it comes down to it, we focus so much on punishment that the idea, the notion of rehabilitation is never properly implemented. Right? I mean, you could bring that even beyond drugs, but the focus on drugs, there is a stigma against it. Like, oh, you're a drug user, let's just fucking throw you away, but let's not try to fucking give you the hand up. Let's not try to help you improve your life.
Both trying to help this guy. Let's just throw his ass in prison and make money off of him.
Stigma balls, Lamau.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just...
Okay, what would you guys say that this is or is not a good idea? For anyone that does want to do drugs, I think they should be specifically excluded from trying to join any sort of a public health group.
What do you mean by public health group?
Which drugs?
Meaning that I think they should be barred from trying to join, how to say it, like from trying to get, not necessarily welfare, but like Medicare, Medicaid, that type of shit.
Oh, like state-mandated insurances? Yeah, I'd agree to a certain extent, yeah. You know, if you want to...
Not even, well, hang on, not even specifically a private insurance, but public.
Right, yes, as I said, state-mandated insurances and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't think that'd be such a bad idea.
If you make that a requirement, aren't you gonna encourage the illicit use of drugs?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it's not on the backs of, like, for example, state-run insurances. That's done by the taxpayer. So then the taxpayer's not out and liable, like, footing towards that insurance bill, you know what I mean? If those people aren't a part of it.
Also, he said people that want to keep doing drugs, so I mean, if they didn't want to keep doing drugs, they could always use that to get off drugs.
This is what I'm getting at. Like, if a person goes in and you know, for whatever reason gets hurt on the job or whatever, and they find weed or meth or, you know, pick a drug, pick a poison, they find some drug in their system, and they're only on Medicare, Medicaid, one of the public ones. You know, how do you feel about those people just completely being barred from getting that help?
No, because the problem with that is, like, if they get injured on the job, they could have been smoking weed, like, a week prior, like, at home on their day off, and then they're fucked. Like, that's just ridiculous.
Here's the
Right.
thing. I am all for it, but we need to get a baseline of, in this circumstance, what are we considering a drug? If you look at marijuana, it's in many states are decriminalizing it, and a lot of states are legalizing it for recreational use. So I think if we removed marijuana from the equation on this one, I think it's perfectly fine. If you go into a lot of the harder stuff like heroin, fucking cocaine, ecstasy, shit like that, I think then it's a little bit more viable, especially since those things, it's a very short testing period. You know, like I think cocaine's like 3 or 4 days that it's still in your system.
But if you're gonna do this for people who are using drugs, then shouldn't you also bar people who smoke or drink off of that too? Because the taxpayer's gonna have to pay for their treatment when they get longer liver cancer.
Oh hell yeah! That's
So,
why I would say is
People
like,
who
what are
eat
we?
McDonald's on a regular basis
Yeah.
who have to, you know, like where do you draw the line?
Yeah, so
Well,
exactly. That's
no,
why I
the
think
topic
it'd be
was
better
on-
not to do that.
The topic was
So-
on drugs. As far
Right,
as
the
food
point
is
that it
concerned.
increases the likelihood that the taxpayer is going to have to pay for them, but so does food.
Oh well, to some degree, I would say food would be even actually worse.
Well, it depends on the drug.
Yes, but it would depend on the drug.
I mean, this doesn't heart disease kill the most people in the United States right now, and type 2 diabetes is like
Yeah.
really bad.
that's why I would say
Yeah.
food would actually be quite substantially
Yeah.
worse.
So.
But I mean, that's kind of a false equivalence because you have to eat a lot of food for that to happen, but you don't have to do many drugs for it to fuck you up.
What about if you are a drug user and you register as such? Will you now be exempt from paying Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security taxes?
You know, I would love that. If you're not a part of the program, then why are you paying fucking taxes for it? You know.
Yeah, but then we get into an issue of like, well, then people who don't use these services, should they pay taxes for it? And it's just
Well, that's the whole fucked up
Now,
thing with
we're going
Obamacare.
down a rabbit hole now.
Obamacare was strictly funded by the people that didn't use it. You know, and the whole reason why people were promoting to keep Obamacare, all these fucking jobless millennial fucks, all these, you know, their whole fucking
Actually,
premise.
hang on. Mace, how old are you?
Oh, I'm a millennial, but I'm not jobless,
Yeah,
so I
so,
don't
like,
I don't necessarily fit in that.
Everybody to like their mid 30s now, like, even their late 30s is a fucking millennial at this point. Like,
Oh.
so
Yeah, I'm a millennial. I'm not gonna lie, but
so to refer to them as like jobless millennial fucks is a little disingenuous.
no,
Hey.
I specified the jobless
I'm not
millennials.
jobless.
I probably should have put a
So-
fucking comma in there.
I think the biggest problem we need to look at is that Obamacare was a really inherently flawed system, and like it had good intentions, but was flawed, and that
You know,
no one's
what,
been able to improve it.
I
And,
think
like,
the
when
number one
Obamacare,
thing.
like, we're gonna improve it. No, they weren't. They were gonna fuck it even more.
No, fuck the government bullshit. I think we should open up the state lines. We should open up the state lines when it comes to insurances, as far as healthcare is concerned. I guarantee you, competition, time and time again, breeds success. Okay, that's for the companies that are involved and also the end users. If we opened up state lines, I guarantee you, we would see some drastic changes.
I think the problem is that like for-profit healthcare is the reason why our healthcare is some of the worst in Western countries. Like, I don't know. So, like,
What do you mean? I mean, Obamacare was a complete failure. I mean, every Western country that has free healthcare fails. We need to pay for it. That's like a capitalist
wait,
system.
excuse me? Like,
Yeah.
no? Like, Canada's got a very successful healthcare system. The NHS
Nope.
pays for it.
No, I would definitely argue
Okay.
against that.
Why would you argue against that? They
Okay.
have a fucking hybrid system where you can have private insurance if you want, but there's a government
No. All right,
That's
so it's
communism.
healthcare
No,
system.
the-
It's
the-
not-
the
oh
private
my
system
God.
is not
You're
the
that
issue.
motherfucker from Disco Palace. Ugh.
What's Disco Palace?
Nothing. It's a different Discord server.
Oh.
He's
Nah,
a-
the-
Disco Palace.
Anyway, the private thing is
I
perfectly.
fucking agree, too.
It's all fine and dandy. It's the government problem. The government one is the one that I have a problem with. It doesn't function the way that it realistically should. Let's say you got hurt, right? Let's say that you sprained your arm or some shit. And let's say it was a fucking Friday. You go in, right? You go into one of their version of an urgent care or whatever, the government run ones. You go in, you need to get a referral. So you get seen by a nurse after waiting for hours, because anywhere you go, you're going to be waiting for hours, okay? If it's not life-threatening. You go in, you get seen by the nurse, she does the vitals and everything. She's going to inform you that you need a referral for a specialist to take care of your arm or whatever. And that's where it's fucked up, because then it's like, well, can I get a referral here? And they say, no, we just take your vitals. It's like an initial intake thing. You have to go to this other agency to get a referral. You go to that other agency to get a referral. They're going to tell you, oh, well, it's kind of late now on Friday. You have to come back Monday. You see what I'm saying? With a private healthcare, you're not going to run into that. They're like, oh, fuck, someone's here and they want to pay money? Get that fucker in here right now. Let's get our numbers up. Yeah. You know, with government-mandated shit, it's like they're going to take their fucking time every single day. Oh, Bill Gates up in this bitch. Fuck yeah.
Hey, what up, dude?
I mean, don't they have referrals in the United States? I mean, isn't that a thing? Your insurance refers you to a certain thing, and then they refer you for.
Yeah, so I think the problem there is that you sprain your arm. That's not really a problem per se.
Well, I was trying to give you a circumstance of it being like non-life threatening.
If you were to break your arm and go
even if you broke your arm, you would run into the same gambit.
Nah, it wouldn't be the same gambit. When I broke my arm living in Canada, I was able to get that shit treated instantly.
I don't know about instantly.
I mean, it wasn't like I had to wait a fucking week.
Right, obviously not a week, but I'm just saying there's a lot of red tape when it comes to trivial things.
Yeah.
Well, of course there's stuff things like, trivial, like, it's bureaucratic bullshit, that involving everything, but, like, at the same time, it's meant to be there for a reason. It's to regulate it. It's to make sure there isn't a problem involved. Like, someone could easily exploit it. And it's not the fault of you or anyone else. It's just that someone in the past has tried to exploit the same thing that's happened to you in a way to profit off it.
Okay, dude. Hey, what you call exploitation, I call making a living. Okay? So stop with this emotional language that you're using, okay?
Simply just exploiting, like someone could easily break their arm and get insurance money. But, like, not realistically break their arm. Like, you can fake it if they want to. Like, it's possible.
You can fake a broken arm.
You can.
Just, like, bend it, and then the x-rays, you give them actually a fake arm, a dummy arm for them to x-ray. And the bones are made out of metal. And you're actually an amputee and you don't have an arm.
I mean, I assume that's what's happened. I mean, that's why there's a fucking...
Yeah. I think you're an idiot. Okay.
Whoa.
Okay.
We can have a nice civil discourse. We don't need to be name calling. Okay,
it's
come on.
It's okay.
We can take it outside, okay? If you want to fight, we can fight.
But I'm indoors. I can't go outside.
Yeah,
it's midnight.
We're all keyboard warriors here.
It's too cold outside.
Yeah, you little cuck.
Thank you.
Yeah. I bet you like that, don't you, soy boy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're nothing but a little sissy.
Are you outside or are you just eating your mic?
I'm right here, right now, outside your door. Fists up, dicks down.
Knock on my door.
You knock on mine first. Bitch. Anyways, let's get back to the argument, because you obviously have demonstrated yourself with a person that has a very limited cognitive ability, but let's get back to the argument.
I guess I do.
I think that public healthcare, government-owned healthcare, does not work. It is a communist institution to feed men estrogen. They're going to have, the next step is government-mandated estrogen therapy, because, they're replacing testosterone on a mass scale. They feed kids soy.
They're putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay, okay? I totally feel you, man.
You're so funny. You used a meme from, 2004. Haha, you're so funny. You're so funny.
It's actually 2014.
I don't give a shit, dude. You're a fucking piece of garbage.
I was just agreeing with you. Holy shit. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. This shit's fucked up. Alright? And I was agreeing with you.
Frogs gay! That's why we should privatize everything.
Why can't I get
privatized? Everything.
I want to get I want my Bernie Sanders Utopia.
Wait. What?
I want my Bernie Sanders Utopia.
Alright, check this out. You want to know something fucked up about Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders is the biggest fucking shill. No, I don't care about the fucking... No. Hold on. I don't care about what he owns. He can own whatever the fuck he wants. He's a senator. They get paid fucking bank. Here's the problem I have with Bernie Sanders. The guy is disingenuous as fuck, okay? Number one, case in point, he's a goddamn draft dodger, okay? Now, when in the fucking election and the debates and everything, he was, talking about, he cared about our military, this, that, and the other. He doesn't give a fuck about the military. He was on the fucking...
He hates the military.
He was on the Veteran Affairs Board right? VA. He was one of the council members of the board that overran Veteran Affairs. That motherfucker, you know what he fucking did? That he fucking approved, and it's... Yeah, he defunded needed facilities for fucking shit that veterans needed, amputees and the like. Severe issues that were going on with vets. He took money that was supposed to be allocated for them, and he signed in for bonuses for the council. So he got millions and millions of dollars, not for himself, not just for himself, but for him and his fucking buddies on the council. All of them are old, sad fucks.
Can you link this to me?
Hold on. Let me Google.
Sound like a communist.
Fuck Bernie Sanders, dude.
Fuck
That
Bernie.
fucking old ass piece of shit.
Are you guys Trump babes? Or are you guys like, what are you
Yeah, I
guys?
voted for Trump. Yeah.
Well, I voted for Trump, but
You have a problem with
there.
that?
Oh yeah.
Hold on.
Cuck.
I voted for Trump. Now, given said that doesn't mean I'm like this huge Trump supporter. Like I have my own issues with him, you know.
Hey, you voted right, bro. That's
No,
fine.
I still
You
think I voted right. I wish that he would get his own PR representative to, like, the guy says some crazy shit. I mean, none of us can lie. All right, he says some pretty crazy shit. I wish he
It's
would.
coming from a good place. It's coming from a good place. He's a conservative. He's good. He wants free markets. He loves it. Okay.
Didn't he get laughed at by the UN?
He got laughed at by the UN.
Yeah.
The UN? Who gives a fuck about the UN? They let genocides happen all the fucking time. Call Rwanda and tell them how the UN helped them. Fuck off.
Interesting.
Oh, the UN laughed at them. Fuck the UN.
Maybe.
Oh,
Well, they
Okay.
should just get good.
The UN are a bunch of war criminals.
You got this on Iceland posting InfoWars. God fucking sake.
What do you mean I didn't get anything from InfoWars?
Just check the VC shit.
Okay, Google Rwandan genocide. Or Google UN aid to Rwanda. Do me that favor and you'll find nothing.
The Hutus and the Tutsis.
Maybe.
I know about that shit.
Maybe they didn't deserve it.
Yeah, I'm alright. I had mine, somebody fucking hit me.
Who hit you?
Oh wait, the Holocaust
Someone
called.
got
They
hit.
want the UN's help back.
Oh,
Wait,
that was
didn't do anything.
that wasn't the UN though. That was the League of Nations.
UN didn't exist back then. So you are
Yeah.
You didn't know who else didn't exist? Your mother.
No,
Actually, no. My
That's also
grandma
correct.
did. My grandma was in the Holocaust.
I hope she stayed there.
Well, my great grandma did, and my great grandpa did, and her
Why
sisters
is there
did.
so much edgelordness on here right now? I don't get it.
I mean-
Edgelordness? I'm not being an edgelord. I'm just being intellectual. I'm just asking the questions that nobody else wants to.
I'm just really depressing.
Oh my
You're just
god.
making baseless claims. Nothing else.
Baseless claims?
Yes.
I'm more based than you'll ever be. ADJ
Wrong,
Franklin.
mate. I'm Australian. Do you know what we do for legal immigrants? We take them. Our navy puts them on a small island in the middle of the Pacific, and we leave them there forever, and no one gives a fuck. Fuck
Thank
them,
you.
they're never coming
Thank
back.
you.
Praise the base
You
god.
want to talk who's based? Want to talk who's based?
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to praise
I'm
the base god.
Dude, I'm an Easter Island native. Okay, we kill people and make Easter Island heads out of their bodies.
People live
How
on
do you
Easter
feel about
Island.
that?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that's even true. People don't live on Easter Island. It's abandoned
Yeah.
land.
You are fake news.
Yeah.
You are fake news. I'm a Maori. Ooga chaka.
You are
ooga
news of
chaka,
fake.
Ooga 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 chaka.
No, here's the thing. I
Sorry.
don't mind immigrants. I don't mind immigrants at all, but so long as you come over the legal way. One thing I know about Australia, thank you so much for bringing it up. I had a buddy
Fuck it.
that was engaged to an Australian woman, and when they were researching what it would take for him to get over there, it was easier for her to just come to the States and become a citizen than for him to properly marry her and enter that
We
way.
need genetic.
We have
testing.
a special visa relationship with Australia that allows them to get work visas in the United States.
Wrong.
What?
Wrong.
You don't know?
If I wanted to move to the United States of America, it'd be relatively easy for me.
Yeah, there's special work visas for Australians. Most people don't know.
Special war visas. Because Australians are just a bunch of warmongers.
I mean, I'm American.
We love a good fight, mate. We love a good fight. If you start a fight, we'll be there.
The emo wars, man. The emo wars. Never forget the emo wars.
The
Mate,
emo
we even went
wars.
to war with birds.
No,
Do-
they went to war
Do you
with
know the worst thing
peace.
about? Do you know the worst thing about Australians? They
Nothing.
tried to convince us that Foster's is beer.
Centerlink?
Yeah, they tried to convince us that Foster's is beer.
No, it's not.
So that
Trash.
again is fake news. That's Jewish propaganda to suggest we drink that shit. We actually
What's
don't
Fox?
drink that shit.
What's Foster?
It's
They
shit
don't-
beer.
I'll say this. I have never been into a pub where I've seen someone order Foster's ever.
It's the equivalent.
DJ.
It's the equivalent of Coors Light. It's gross.
Slam a fucking long neck of V fucking B.
Do you know what I like about that stereotype though? It's just it's definitely masculine, isn't it? Fuck you.
VB. Fuck.
Tell Australians not cucked. Based as fuck.
Long cocked or shove a long neck up your ass, you fucking.
Oh,
We need to-
while you're here, I gotta thank you so much for Hugh Jackman.
Oh, yeah.
We thank
fuck
you.
off.
On behalf of the whole country,
He's
we
alright,
fucking
he's
thank.
alright.
He's not, come on,
Yeah,
who's
he's
better
alright.
than Hugh Jackman?
Mate,
Every other
Australians
Australian.
fought in the fucking bush war. Fucking bro.
The Anzacs, mate. Fucking Anzacs.
Hey, what's your next war anyway? What's gonna be your next war in the animals?
China.
China.
Fuck
Oh.
China. We're going for them.
Yeah, my fucking mookie cans.
Our government is currently not speaking to China at the moment, and vice versa. They refuse
Really?
to actually engage in diplomatic ties.
I thought you guys were really close with. I thought you guys were really close economically.
Yeah, economically we are, but like diplomatically, it's like get the fuck out of our country.
Yeah, mate. Fucking Chinese gookies. Fuck them.
Hey.
Here's a quick question. So I know that Australia has one of the, it's of all the continents on the planet, it has some of the highest uranium ore deposits.
Yeah.
So what is your guys' stance on nuclear technology?
Mate, you got a bomb there, boys. Fuck them.
It's at the point now where we got duped into investing a lot of our market share of energy to be put into renewables, all right? So we started paying a ridiculous amount of money. We have neglected to build additional coal-fired power plants to be able to address that need and to bring down costs. So one of the additional costs ideas moving forward is to go nuclear. Because you're right, we have the largest deposit of uranium and good fucking uranium anywhere else in the world. That's why America will always look after us, is because of how fucking valuable we are in that asset. We want to, we are geographically perfect for it, but I don't quite think we're there at the population size that it'll be beneficial to invest that much money into one form of power.
Yeah,
Okay.
mate.
But it's something we want.
Yeah, mate. All you gotta do is drop a fucking nukie on them. They'll listen.
Oh, I'm gonna mute this dude. Give me a
Yeah, I'm
second.
gonna mute him as well.
So it's kind of like this whole playing with fucking fire thing, because our nuclear testing initially was all about weaponizing it before implementing its actual energy efficiency uses, right? So I think with you guys, having seen the example of the U.S. and the world as a whole using nuclear technology as a form of weaponry, I think you guys already have seen the outcome of that and
We
public
wanted it.
opinion. Well, no, that you
we
wanted
really,
it.
really wanted it.
Well,
No,
no.
back in the day, we got really close to building nuclear weapons.
Oh, really?
Like, ridiculously close. If you look at Jarvis Bay, it's actually, it's a coast of New South Wales, but it's actually being turned into a part of the Australian Capital Territory. That's where we had a nuclear testing site, and everything there suggests that we're actually looking to build our own nuclear weapons.
Ah.
But what ended up happening is during the 1950s and 1960s, communism started to take fucking plague in our country quite badly, and the American government refused to be able to give up any secrets. Then our country just turned quite conservative after that and said, "Nah, we're getting rid of all." We actually banned communism from establishing a communist party in the country. Like, it was that severe. Our government went crazy for it, and we just went for a massively into the right.
All right, so let me ask you about this then. So how do you feel about, before I get into anything else, how do you feel about the whole America's Second Amendment thing, but the right to bear arms argument?
Love it. I think we.
So what's up with the whole buyback thing then?
I'll explain that.
Okay.
In Australia, we are directly a British colony, All right?
Sorry.
We are British people. I know. Well, so are Americans, but we look, we have a different relationship to to the United Kingdom as where the Americans do. Like, you guys still have like an attachment to it, but it's like we're an extension, a direct extension of Britain that's just advanced into our own nation. We don't have freedom of speech, so our versions of freedom of speech have always come from the Americas, or exclusively from the United States. When you look into Australian history, our first rebellion, which was called the Eureka Stockade, was influenced because of American miners that thought that they could have a second chance at striking gold in the Australian goldfields after California, and it ended up developing this whole new political sense. I understand that without that, we don't have the democracy that we have today, so our democracy has directly stemmed off the ideals of the American self-governance in that experiment. So if you guys can't defend your First Amendment using your Second Amendment, we can't defend shit over here either.
Oh, nice. That's one thing about the First Amendment that really got me in America, because right now the hot topic obviously is guns and everything, but more so than that with this whole touchy, feel-good fucking millennial bullshit, whatever. It's the whole identity politics thing, and it's really taken hold. Like, I know up in Canada, they made it a hate crime. Like, it's written into law. It's a hate crime if you misgender someone. Like, how fucked is that? That's just, like, even on accident, it's still a criminal offense up in Canada. It's so fucking
if I
stupid.
could just add to that, the Canadian system stems from the Westminster system. Australia stems from that system. And with a parliament bends to the will of the people. So we can turn ultra-libertarian or ultra-tyrannical. We have the right to do that within our society. We can literally ban or put whatever we want into, as long as it doesn't violate the Constitution. And the Constitution isn't as entrenched as your Bill of Rights, which have an outlining document to say these things in particular, unless it's by overwhelming, and I know I've already said that, but it's much harder to get an amendment changed rather than it is to get an act of legislation changed. And it's designed that way. But the idea is we can literally do whatever we want. You guys have a certain foundation that you all have to abide by, and it's written beautifully.
Yeah, we call it checks and balances. A lot of times it feels more like red tape.
But I've grown up in the American century, which was the 20th century, right? And it was the same as my grandparents. And it's, we've benefited from it. I love the fact that, out of every country in the world that's able to be a global superpower, America's been the best one so far. It's given back all of its territory that it's taken over. It hasn't tried to impose any of its political structure on us. It doesn't meddle with our elections. And it's all it says to us is like, just be our friends, sharing our own thing. And if we need help, just give us a hand. And you guys helped us out, we've helped you out. It's been an amazing relationship.
Well, that's good between countries. On the topic of territories, though, I wouldn't say we've given them all back. We still own American Samoa, Guam, fucking Puerto Rico. There's a few things there that we do that aren't too nice. For by and large, they're all American for the most part, but there's a lot of advantages of being an American that they don't get, like the right to vote, for example. They don't give 2 cents. America doesn't give 2 cents of a fuck of their votes, even though that there are it's a certain classification of American citizen that they are, but they're not allowed to take place in our electoral system, which I think is pretty fucked.
I'm convinced that not all people can be democratic.
No.
This my biggest criticism of multiculturalism is that we are bringing in people from societies that don't understand the ideas of rights and liberties, and whose people have never had to fight for that, and whose grandparents have no realization on what that has actually cost to preserve. When you start having these people vote, they might vote in good intentions, but they don't take into consideration, it's like, well, are we voting on this issue, which is then going to infringe on one of our freedoms, and is that the correct thing to do, or should we find another approach around it? It seems like they're more than willing to give away those civil rights and liberties for the sake of creating what they believe is good.
So for my thing, in the U.S., political parties are run rampant. You either run on the right or the left, and you kind of choose your side. And the people that are left is the middleman. We kind of, we get stuck between a rock and a hard place when deciding a lot of things. There's no true middle ground. It's everything's like black and white. It's one extreme or the other. I've always been from the sentiment of I have a lot of personal viewpoints, right? But my political viewpoints are completely different. Like, the things I think that we should have politically as a country, a lot of those things tend to differ drastically from what I feel personally we should have. And that's because when I look at things politically, what I look at it in mass, like what is best for our country as a whole, not just me as an individual. And the problem is a lot of people look so much within themselves that they only vote towards what's going to benefit just them and not, by and large, the country as a whole.
I get what you mean on that. Like, it's I like to call it like a version of national capitalism. Is where, you know, for me, I don't like buying from big, you know, going to what you would call Walmart, we call Woolworths over here. I don't like shopping there. I'd much rather go to a local grocer and a local butcher, and that's where I buy all my food from. I keep it local. I know the person I'm employing. I know it's directly benefiting him and his family. It's directly benefiting me because I'm getting a better quality product. It's like all these little things, and the same thing of policies. Like, yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the whole Walmart thing, it like stabs me in the gut every time. Like, I think the last time I actually went to a real butcher, I was probably like 8 years old. Like, it's gotten to the point where it's like you go to the big box stores for everything now.
See, in Australia, we one thing I'd say we've done quite good at is actually still promoting and still supporting small and medium business. And you find Starbucks came over here and they couldn't really gain too much traction on the Australian market because we said no, we'd much rather go to a cafe rather than, which is just a small local business. You know, they serve coffee and cakes, which all they really served. But we just rejected it.
Yeah, and they're more willing to work with people in the community, whereas you get some from Starbucks to come in, it turns into this mass thing, and every time I go, they fuck something up. It's like, they don't give a fuck.
No accountability. Look, I run my own small business, man. I know what people like.
Oh, nice.
Personal touch. Oh, mate, whenever I'm on the server and I hear people say, employers don't care about their employees, it's like, no, fuck, that's what I care about the most. You have no idea. If I've got a good employee and they're saying they're leaving, oh my god, aren't I stressing? How do I keep you?
You know, it's, oh man, it's such a big thing. I know Amazon's one of them. It's one of those juggernauts that there's a lot of cases coming up of mistreatment of their employees. And it's like, when it's small, it's easy. Not to say that it's like a walk in the park or anything, there's still some headaches that come up with it, but like the management level of taking care of the people that are under you is far more manageable than if you're in like 6 different continents and you have thousands of fucking operations going on at once, you know. So it makes sense that people that own small and medium-sized businesses, they can be more attentive to the people that help breed their success.
Look, I've worked for big companies and I feel neglected, and you know what, you just leave. It's like, I know not everyone has that luxury of leaving, but also, I guess it's your sense of value within the business. Like, if you're a valued employee, regardless on how big the business is, people don't want to lose you.
You know, I've literally quit jobs because I felt like that. But not everyone has that luxury, you know. I've been fortunate enough to be able to at least have that option. I'm an independent contractor now, so you know, I like working with clients and getting my own calls and stuff like that and arranging things that way. Do a lot of handyman shit. And I love that, you know, but that type of lifestyle isn't for everyone. Some people are the kind of people that kind of need to be led and directed one way or another. But these are the same people that will bitch, moan, and complain all day long, but they don't actually take time to look into what's allowed. The last time I had a 9-to-5 job about a year and a half ago. I was a security guard, and like I saw things that were all fucked up, and people that were working with me, they saw the same shit that was fucked up, but no one ever did anything. People that were working there 4 or 5 years in the same facility, and shit that should have been given to them, like better equipment and the like, shit was never done. And so when I came on board, you know, I moved up into a supervisorial position fucking very quickly because of how I operated things. You know, just as a functional employee, I did my time. It's not that I did my time, is that I demonstrated, like, hey, I can do the base job, what else you got for me, kind of thing. The military background helped too. Right. So what ended up happening is when I got to a supervisorial position, I did my due diligence on my end, looked into, all right, what things do we need here, this, that, and the other. And we have something in the U.S. called OSHA standards, and it's usually in different states and whatnot, but for the most part, most states fall under OSHA safety workplace guidelines and whatnot. Things changed drastically. I told everyone that worked with me, everyone that worked under me at that point, like, hey, I need all of you guys to file OSHA complaints. And they're like, oh no, that's going to be bad, we're going to get investigated. It's like, nothing, you're an employee, you're fine. You can file it all you want. They go, they'll fire us. They can't fire you. So another thing too is I like to look into a lot of law. So there was something that happened at work with one of our clients of the facility that we worked at. Client complained, and so we had this huge thing with management. So all the supervisors came in that worked at the facility. So there's like 8 of us. So we go into this facility, and in Nevada, it's as far as secret recordings and whatnot, you don't need anyone's consent to secret record in Nevada. So I went into the meeting, clicked record on my phone, sat it down, and fucking recorded the entire conversation. And I put that recording into my OSHA report when I filed it, and said this is exactly what the upper management does when we, the supervisors, went in and said, hey, X, Y, and Z is wrong. Can you fix this? And they said, no, we're not going to fix this. It's too much time, too much money. It's not worth it. Just you guys do a better job with what you got. And, well, after the OSHA reports went out, they had an investigation. People came through. And I left shortly after that because so much shit changed after that. A few of the upper management of that particular branch were fired and this, that, and the other. Like, it was a huge shitstorm. But it was when I did that and I realized, like, I don't want to do this anymore. And that's when I went over and did the whole independent contractor thing. I'd rather work for myself than be under someone that just doesn't give a fuck. You know, but I had to do what I had to do on my end to look up and see what is allowed, you know? And not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people will actually take time to see, hey, is this okay? This feels wrong. You know, they don't take the time to go and say, hey, how do I fix this situation that I'm in? You know?
A lot of people are really dumb, actually. Like, you know, to be quite fair, most people, I'm surprised they can walk across the street by themselves.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
Huh, good point.
No, I've always been from the sentiment of if you don't like your situation, do something to change it. And these are people that are working with that, like, they didn't really have any other place to go as far as work was concerned, or they were living paycheck to paycheck. They couldn't take the 2 weeks off to find another job, kind of thing. They were stuck between a rock and a hard place, you know. And I've never been from that mentality. It's like, yeah, if I'm in a shit situation and I have to be in this situation, what can I do to improve it? You know. And it's like it's like the whole weak backbone thing. It's such a humanitarian turnoff for me to see weak-minded people to just sit there and complain. You know, you can bitch and moan and just shoot the shit, but then there's bitch and moan and live in this shitty existence but not do anything about it. And that's what I got no time for.
Especially when they come from a country that's, you know, first world developed countries. Like, really, you're having a hard living now. This is the easiest time ever.
Oh, fuck.
Well, I just got back from fucking the flat earth surfer. I got banned in like 10 minutes.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah.
Don't tell me you're one of those people that believe in the round earth.
Real quick,
it's actually Acorn ships.
I just remembered, when I first started working at that security job, there was this girl that was working there for like 3 years or whatever, and we were smoking and talking, and she was talking about, oh my god, the wage gap, this, that, and the other, men get paid more than women, this is bullshit. And I asked her, how much money do you make an hour? And she's like, it's none of your business. So I'm like, no, I'm trying to add to the conversation. How much money do you make an hour? And she's like, I make $12 an hour. At the time, I made $11 an hour. And I'm like, you're a woman, you make $12 an hour, you make more money than me. How does your argument make any sense? You know? And it just fucking gets me that.
Okay, but in her defense, her argument would be on average, not individual cases, so it's not really a valid objection.
It's not even on average. The whole fucking wage gap thing is such bullshit. You take every industry.
All men make money than more money than all women.
So
this is how you summarize. You go, because they all fall into the same way of thinking. You know, employers are just exploiting people to make more money. It's like, okay, well that's the case, and if women are cheaper to employ, why wouldn't every employer just employ women?
Exactly.
Why don't we see all low-skilled work just completely filled with women?
There's a lot of really good, high-paying industries. Right?
Yeah, I don't know what the actual official response to that is. It'd probably be something along the lines of, all of these evil male CEOs think that the women are so shitty because of pregnancy and, like, you know, poor work ethic that they decide not to work. They only have to pay them 80% of what they would fucking normally pay, which is, that's the only thing I can think of to defend that statement, but it's so self-evidently absurd that I don't know what they would actually say.
Yes.
Wait, you think the point to say that employers would just employ women because it would be cheaper is absurd?
No. I'm saying that the potential response, the only response I can think of to that would be that the employers are just so sexist that they genuinely think it's not worth it to hire cheap labor because women are so shitty. That objection is the only objection that I can think of to like justify that statement, and it's just so obviously fucking retarded.
So what you're trying to say is that women are considered to be worse than blacks were in slavery.
Exactly, right. So, yeah, they didn't have an objection. Well, okay, but to be fair, they didn't pay the blacks at all, so...
but it's like, I'd much rather use a black and not pay him anything.
Well, there's another argument. They got room and board, so...
Yeah, you still have to pay slaves.
There's no such thing as a free meal.
Let's be honest.
You have to indirectly pay slaves. You have to house
slavery was just the first attempts at communism. You know, everyone was owned by the state or the slaver.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone contributes their bit and gets what they need.
And all the
you could
the profits from the means of production goes to the plantation owner, i.e., the state.
Well, except the workers don't control the means of production in that context.
In no communist nation does the workers own the means of production.
Yeah.
Not a single fucking one.
Communism's never been tried, dude. You just need
Do you think in Mao's China? Do you think in Mao's China those workers were like, "Man, I'm so happy today we finally get beaten."
I think Mao was pretty happy with Mao's China.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was, but I'm pretty sure he wasn't.
Yeah, he was doing okay.
I was talking to this Scottish kid, and he was trying to advocate that Joseph Stalin was one of the greatest leaders of all time, and that communism was awesome. And I'm like, do you know shit about Joseph Stalin? Motherfucker killed more of his own people than fucking Adolf Hitler did in the fucking Holocaust. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I was talking to a red pillar fucking Holocaust denier guy before. It was fucking insane. Yeah, he was like, all right, so we would just have to hope that we get a leader as honest and as wise as Hitler to come along and lead us all to through fascism, and we'd have state-run media and stuff. And I was like, okay, so how do you define what the red pill is? And his answer to that was, people who are red pilled will define what the red pill is, which is just, and you know, he just went around in fucking circles for like 3 hours. It was insane.
I'm done with the whole fucking alt-right shit. I can't stand it.
Yeah, he went from saying, you know what, I just have healthy skepticism about these kinds of things, to ultimately he was saying shit like, the red pill is the ultimate truth and you'll never understand until you're inducted into the red pill. Like that was the progression that he went from, you know, I just think it's healthy to question things, to fucking, I am a cult member.
I think the red pill was more, like, it's been conflated into more of a political sense, but what it was just sort of opening your eyes to reality and understanding that the 20th
so
century
the general
bubble,
principle is just accepting uncomfortable truths.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But it has been misappropriated, unfortunately.
And only recently as well, I'd say probably within the last 18 months.
Maybe like 4 years, I'd say.
Maybe.
Because everyone thinks that they have the truth is the problem, so there's no real consensus on who's red pill, because everyone believes that anyone who doesn't agree with them, well, most of the time is just mistaken or deluded.
I think libertarians, I'm probably going to contradict myself and say that instead of support your point, but I think libertarians have a fairly realistic perspective on how the world works, and you can't really base it around truths. You just have to sort of base society around what's not as completely fucked.
Yeah, well, according to this guy, he said that individual liberty was functionally meaningless in a society and it shouldn't be considered in terms of setting up the ideal society.
Yeah, but he's proposing that as a might is right argument to say that, you know,
yeah,
we have a higher authority because of our own sense of morality, therefore we should be able to dictate you and how you live your life. And this is the thing when you have collectivism opposed to individualism, society becomes really fucking boring.
And also, there's no way to elect someone who would be able to handle that much power. And he was saying shit like, oh yeah, of course there's room for corruption, but hopefully we get someone as good as Hitler to be the ultimate dictator of the country. Which is just fucking...
No, you need checks and balances. You need that type of stuff to be able to hold people accountable in government. It's essentially.
Yeah, it was like I asked him who he thought would be the person who selects the most honest and most competent leader, and he said, well, the dictator himself would choose who's the most competent and most honest. So it kind of just runs around in circles to get to that point.
These are the same fucking people, man. They can't fathom a realistic scenario for something like this to happen, which is why they turn around and run in circles. Because this shit is just so fucking far out there that, like, they don't want to admit how fucking fucked the notion of the whole thing is.
My biggest issue dealing with for leftists at the moment is instead of arguing the premise or to actually argue the point, they would much rather argue the semantics around the argument.
Yes.
Well, that depends on what you mean by argument.
Disagreement.
They won't.
What do you mean exactly by semantics? It's really important we get a clear definition of the semantics.
Well, it's like you'll be suggesting to say, well, you know, there is an issue with sexual harassment. Okay, Brett Kavanaugh, for an example, with what's happening here, and instead of actually talking about the point is, you know, are we able to make these claims, and should we be treating the person guilty until proven innocent, or is that a bad precedence to say? And instead of actually talking about that, they'll be talking, you know, they'll bunker it down to define what is sexual assault. And they'll try to say, you know, he already is guilty because, you know, sexual assault's determined by this. And it's like, well, okay, I can understand that, and that's another point. But assuming that, you know, it's all accusations and it can't be proven one way or another, we have to sort of move away from that point and look at the main point here. How do we treat this as a society? And you won't ever be able to get to that, because that's the part of responsibility. And what I'm convinced with leftists is they don't know how to handle responsibility there. They have no responsible solutions. All they can do is really highlight an area which they just believe isn't working and just ask for radical change on it. What that radical change is, we don't know.
You know, his whole thing...
Well, radical change seems to be just an insane tightening of restrictions around what people are able to say and do.
Like, I've always looked at it like this. A motherfucker that does some crazy, fucked up sexual assault, whatever shit, he's a fucking piece of shit. He's less of a man. However, the good old United States of America, we have certain laws and guidelines and amendments and everything, right to due process and all this stuff. The whole notion of innocent until proven guilty has never been the case. It's always, we treat them as the guilty party and they have to prove their innocence, whereas you're supposed to prove that they are guilty of something. And so for someone like him, I've been following this shit and looking into it, and it's like, as much as it's a heinous thing that she's accusing this man of doing. And I want to, like, this whole Me Too fucking thing that's going on, I want to feel sympathetic and I want to be on her side because it's such a heavy thing. But, like, when I hear, like, the narrative on her end changing, or like, oh, I thought it was him, it may not have been, I thought about it over the weekend, I took some more time to make sure my memory was good enough, it's like, there's so many different ins and outs of her, like, stumbling over her own feet trying to argue this fucking thing, and it's like, oh my fucking god, dude.
Yeah, I hear this idea that women should be severely punished for making false rape allegations. The problem with that is it's very difficult to determine what's false and what's just insufficient evidence. Like, if in court she's arguing that you raped her, and then the court rules that there's not enough evidence on her side, does she then get sent to prison for making a false rape allegation, or is it just a question of you getting off? Like, how do you tell the difference between those two cases?
Well, I think you'd have to have a clear indication of, was this a completely fabricated story, or was there, like, a reasonable doubt that the event could have happened?
Or a reasonable doubt that she believed the event happened. She could have just been...
Well, I guess... that
Crawford Rocker.
This is something which I'm not a religious person, but I think this is something this is what happens when men and women that aren't married do, is that, you know, they engage in open relationships and all that type of stuff, and shit like this can happen. And then I think this is why, you know, religion's been a big thing in society and why they put it in there, because it just solves so many of these little social issues which no one wants to deal with. You know, it's the boy who cried wolf. And, you know, for most instances, we all want to believe the boy, but at some point, because we've seen so many of them, when does it get to the point where we really have to be skeptical around it and say, look, we really need to make sure this is real, because we're going to start destroying people's lives. It's such a hard one to fuck with. Like, like for me, I think what's the best way not to get eaten by a shark?
Don't go swimming.
Don't swim in the ocean. Don't go swimming in the ocean.
Yeah.
But but you can't say that anymore because you go. Well, then you're just saying that it's the victim's fault. Well, I'm sorry, but put yourself in a dangerous situation or do something like that. But that's a little bit off the point. But how do we like prevention's always better than cure?
It is a difficult question to answer because at one point, at a certain point, you're going to have to ask, okay, to what degree should people limit their own personal freedom by virtue of having criminals that might do things to them? But then there's another thing where it's not really reasonable to pretend as though there's nothing you can do and anything. It's not reasonable to take some precautions. I mean, like, there's a balance you need to draw there between, okay, you need to live in your house because criminals might get at you, or anything you do is completely reasonable as long as it's legal and there's no reason to ever protect yourself or take precautions against negative consequences being enacted against you by other people. Like if you just walk into into some shitty neighborhood with a bunch of fucking $100 notes peeking out of your back pocket, you're an idiot and you're doing something stupid and you shouldn't be doing that, even though it should be legal and it shouldn't, it's just difficult to draw that line.
But like, you're not allowed to make false accusations anywhere else. Like if you were to ring up and make a bomb threat, and if they found out you're making a bomb threat, there's going to be repercussions for it. You know, by the same logic, you'd have to say if a woman's prepared to go through the entire ordeal and lie through her teeth about what actually happened, that there should be some repercussion on that.
Yeah. The problem is it's difficult to tell the difference between lying and being mistaken or having your minds. I mean, because the problem is that especially when things like alcohol or drugs are involved, it's almost impossible to use memory as a reliable indicator of the offense. So it's entirely conceivable that in many cases where it just appears like they're outrightly lying, that they could just have some warped perception of what happened.
Let's talk about an ideal now. So what if we did find someone, a woman who was blatantly lying for whatever for any sort of motivation for her gain, and actually put a person on the spot to say, he raped me, he sexually assaulted me, this is what happened, but it was a completely fabricated story. Like, what do we do with people that are actually in that situation?
Yeah, okay. Punishment, definitely.
All right, so bare minimum, I would say that she would have to face punishments for lying under oath. She would have to face punishments for wasting the court's time, so all the fees that are associated with that. Just as a base
for defamation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's more of a civil suit thing. So
Do you know what I reckon? Public apology, like absolute, full statement, and have to say it, and full declare it. If someone's willing, but then you got to say, but someone's going to give them a platform.
I'm honestly thinking like they should get some level of jail time for something like that. I don't know about a minimum level of jail time, but there should be a maximum amount of jail time that they should face. Like that should be on the ticket. Like if you're going to be going like through this whole thing and doing all this fucked up shit, then you're going to have to face some high level consequences. Not just for wasting the time of the courts, but also
again,
for the severity of it.
It's easy to fall into the trap where, in the similar trap with the rape allegations, it's such a disgusting crime that it's very easy to just go too far in one direction in either case. It is such just a fucking slimy thing to do, to falsely accuse someone of rape just because you're just taking advantage of the goodwill of the entire society. But I don't know, like the jail time thing. Also with the public apology example, public humiliation may not be the right way to go, because I guess, and I'm not sure how I would feel about this personally, but I imagine a common objection to that would be that may serve as a discouraging element to those who've been genuinely attacked. They don't want to risk that, so you just increase the number of people who are not reporting crimes.
I really wish the reporting would happen. Like,
yeah, honestly, I don't really understand why it's so common to not report these kinds of crimes.
Like, it's...
I guess my question would be is why is it even a question or a problem that people have when people bring up that whole, well, these people won't report crimes? Like that reporting is on you. I mean, we can't force anybody to report crimes.
Sure, but I mean, I'm sure it would generally be argued that reporting of actual crimes is just a societal benefit.
Well, I know, but like, what argument? Like, there's really no argument for that. Can't force people to do it.
Sure,
there's nothing that, I mean, what are we gonna, there's really nothing we can do for that.
If you think about all the heinous crimes that exist, like which rape is one of them. Rape is an absolute heinous crime. It's, you know, it's on the same sort of thing as murder.
I wouldn't say it's
Like,
as bad as murder.
But it's okay, from a morality standpoint, like if you're a rapist, people would send you to the gallows. It's like that's a punishment worthy of death. That's what I'm sort of pointing at. It's something which is worth sending someone to death for. And it has been in the past. But it's one of those crimes, like if you were to murder someone, like and not report that, it's like if you were to witness a murder and not report it or have something happen like that, it's just like, why this? Why is this something that they have to keep secret?
I wouldn't say that rape would justify the death penalty. It's very, very bad, but I wouldn't say it's on the same level as murder, even close.
But that's been the punishment for rape for up until recently.
Well, sure. I mean, many barbaric punishments have been enacted in history. I'm not sure that we should appeal to history to.
I think there's a major issue with the whole definition of rape and how that word's used now too.
Yeah. It's yeah, I don't know. It just seems that like people's personal distaste for the act, which obviously it's just it's a horrifying crime, but I just don't see that it occasions anywhere near as much harm as murder. It's essentially just a form of physical humiliation, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's something that people can overcome, right?
Wait,
like,
because the argument is generally for the psychological damage that is done.
If you get murdered, you can't overcome that. You know, there's no coming back from that one.
Yeah, it's just it's generally regarded as bad not because of the physical harm that is occasioned, because obviously it's still bad even if they don't get hurt. It's just because of the violation of your, you know, physical body, in terms of like you're not supposed to fuck with people's bodies if you don't want them to, as well as just the psychological harm that is occasioned. Like as an analogous example, if I were to hold you down and tickle you, and you had a similar reaction emotionally to that as rape, that would be an equivalently bad crime as rape. Because the variable is not the physical harm, it's just the humiliation and psychological damage, as well as just the fact that you're not letting them go and you're, you know, fucking with them physically. Like, would there be a moral distinction in that case between those two instances?
Yeah, I mean, I think there would be. I don't know exactly where you're going with this. I think it is.
I think that people tend to have a sort of weird metaphysical view of sex as opposed to any other crime. Like sexuality has just got this strange connotation to it, where it's anything involving it is significantly more heinous without any specific reference to its negative effect.
Yeah.
Like, why is grabbing someone's arse any more bad than their shoulder if it's still a violation of their consent? In terms of, and the answer to that is just the psychological distress and humiliation that person would experience. But if someone were to be hypothetically distressed to the same degree by grabbing the shoulder, it would be a morally equivalent crime, right? Unless you assume there's some extra variable just by virtue of it being sexually related.